I know it's something about anticipating that. All right.
Okay, let's move over here.
Okay, fine. You know what room number is? 245. What? You gotta come back upstairs. So then we'll just do that. What do you guys think? Well, I'm going at 8 or 5. I'll text you. Yeah, I told you.
Awesome, nice to see you. Thank you. Nice to see what we're. Lots and lots of money gonna be wasted in that room. Yeah.
Running. Haven't started yet, just waiting for a few more people, hopefully. What's that? 6 minutes.
Yeah.
It'll start shortly. Yep, just waiting for a couple more people. Distractions. I find it.
It hasn't started yet.
Hasn't started. I'm just waiting for a few more people to show up.
Well, I'm helping.
Yeah. Okay.
Blinding.
All right. I guess we might as well start. Suppose.
I have a question.
Please save your questions for the end of the presentation.
So it's good not to blurt them out, huh?
Yeah. All right. Welcome everyone to Nitros 9 EOU 1.0, right? So my name's Fred Provancha, and
You're not from Canada.
I'm not from Canada. I'm originally from New York, but I live in Salt Lake City, or outside of Salt Lake City. And
That's it.
been using a Coco since, well, on and off since 1983, and took a break after college, got back into it around 2000, and been back ever since. When Curtis Boyle started working on EOU for Nitrous 9, I was really excited about that. OS 9, I've always thought that it was something that needed a better user interface, and so I started working with him and decided that the old control panel under multi-view in OS 9 just looked rather dated. Tired. And there were a whole bunch of more features that I thought could be added to the control panel to make it more functional, more useful. So the control panel is something that's always existed in multi-view, okay? But I don't know how many people used it. I thought, especially after Curtis made some changes to G Shell and added functionality to G Shell, I was thinking that that we should update the control panel accordingly to make it be able to handle these additional features that he added. So I was thinking of writing it in Basic 09, but Basic 09, I've been programming in Basic 09 for many years, since the late 80s. But one thing that always bugged me about Basic 09 is that you needed this auxiliary program, Run B, to be able to run any Basic 09 programs. And so I wanted a standalone program that didn't require something like that. And so that leaves only, well, there's probably more than two choices, but two choices that were practical for me. So one was assembly, and the other one was C. And so I decided against assembly because assembly has been something that has been hard for me to wrap my brain around. And so I'm really, really terrible at programming in assembly. C, though, I wasn't particularly experienced in programming in either. But I thought it was something I could handle. And so I decided to teach myself to program in C on the Coco and give that a try and write control panel in C. So that's what it's written in. Now, back in the day, I didn't really program at all in C because microware C for OS 9 had tons of bugs in it, and the compiler was not very functional. But then Geek, there you go. He has been hard at work the last few years, I guess, upgrading the C compiler to make it more functional, to make it easier to use. And I greatly appreciate all the work that he's put into doing it. Without it, this would not have happened, to be honest. I probably might have written it in Basic 09 as a fallback. But anyway, so I started working on it. Been working on it for the past couple of years, I think. And the version that I'm releasing here is version 3.1. So there are two other versions, and they're good, but this one adds a few more features that the previous versions didn't have. So without further ado, let's fire it up. So this is EOU 1.0. And so the first thing you'll notice is that red on white on red's, color and scheme. I have to admit, I've already made some changes to the environment file. I was going to try to start off with a fresh, unmodified disk image of EOU 1.0, but I couldn't find one at the last minute. So, but I'll explain all the changes that I made and how I made them. So one thing that EOU boots into by default is, this is G Shell. And you notice it's gray, okay? It's kind of boring. I was like, we can do better than that, you know. G shell should be more customizable. You can make it whatever color you want. So, and you always could. It's just you have to go into the environment file and edit around it. And I always thought that that was a rather non-EOU way of doing things, you know. You're having to go into a text editor and edit the configuration file in order to make Nitrous 9 run the way you want. Just seems kind of old school and not really in the spirit of EOU. So I was like, what if we could upgrade control to handle all that stuff for you so you never have to touch the environment file except for maybe in extreme circumstances. That would be the ideal, okay? Just like in Windows or any other modern operating system, you know, you go into settings, you know, you click, you know, I can do it here. So you click in here and you go into settings, or you hit the, there we go. And you go in here and you start messing around with the settings and you change the screen size and everything else. And so my vision for control was to be just like that for EOU, for Nitrous 9. So, so here's what I've done. Oh. So that's the newest version of control. You'll notice 80 column is selected here instead of 40 column. So I'm going to go through. So what I did, let me go back up. So what I did in the most recent version of control is you've got all these tabs on the left. Because with all of the new settings that I've added to control, you can't fit them all on one screen like you had before, okay? The original version of control, everything was on one screen. But there's so many settings now, there's just no way to do it. So I kind of categorized all the various settings in different categories. And so you've got G shell, display, mouse, keyboard, Windows, printer, system, boot up, okay? So the first tab, G shell, this has all the settings that modify the functionality and the appearance of G shell itself, okay? So you can change the screen resolution, 80 column versus 40 column, okay? You can change the palette, okay? And there's 4 palette slots, okay, for G shell. And you can change slots and you know, change things around. Then also, I figured that wasn't good enough because suppose you want to, you know, create a new palette like I just did here, and you want to save it and reload it later, okay? Or maybe have a whole bunch of preset palettes that you can choose from depending on your mood or whatever. And so you don't have to, you know, go into this little thing and reconfigure things all the time, okay? So that's where this presets button comes in. And this is probably my biggest innovation in this version of control is the presets function, okay? So let's go into presets. Hopefully this works. All right, and so there's a file in the sys directory called presets.env, okay? And it contains all of the palette information for each one of these saved, predetermined palettes that you can choose from to change the color scheme of G shell. So, for example, let's choose red. Boom. See, everything changes. Well, you can't really see it on the screen so well, but there we go. All right. Oh, let's put that away.
And that color difference is because of the projector?
It's gotta be because,
Okay.
yeah, because I'm not sure why it looks like that. But,
It looks a little washed out.
yeah, a little washed out. I agree. You can probably fiddle with the color controls on that, I imagine, but I don't want to mess with that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here, I'll turn it around like that. Hopefully you can kind of sort of see this. All right, so that's great red. And if you want a green color scheme, boom, now it's green. Purple, teal. I was trying to decide whether to call it turquoise, blue-green, aquamarine. There's so many different names for that color. But I went with teal because it's like really short. So
Yeah.
violets, orange for Halloween. So I put this one on in October. Okay. It looks kind of like burnt yellow here, but anyway, hopefully you can see this here. And then gray is the default that EOU 1.0 ships with. And to me, it's kind of boring. I don't like using gray, but it's in there. Now, this is one I invented called blue steel. It's kind of like a can't really see it so well up there, but hopefully here. Blue steel is like a combination of blue and gray. So that's kind of cool. And these others down here, I'll explain what they're for later. They're mainly used for something else. So anyway, if you want to permanently change your choice, okay, then you click, well, actually, no, you don't need to save it here because you save it upon exit from control. You should just exit here. And then, so that's the presets. You can create your own presets, okay? So you can like change things up. Let's go here. Switch this around. Okay, so there's a new preset. Okay, then you go into presets, and then you can click add. Now, hopefully this works. I think the last time I tried it, there's a bug in it. By the way, I'm going to be posting the most up-to-date version of this like at the end of the day today on Discord. Just so you know. So hopefully this works. We'll see. Okay, so then you type in the name of your preset. Okay. I don't know.
CoCoFEST?
CoCoFEST. I like that. Yes. Okay. Hit enter. And boom, you notice it now appears there. Right? So now you exit. Okay, and then you're back to, just keep it that way. It looks kind of bad. There we go. Exit. Then we got green. All right. So hopefully that gives a little bit more color, pizzazz to your G shell interface. So yeah, that's presets. I hope you all use it. It's great. Now also you can change the storage devices that are displayed in G shell. Okay, and so I'm going to change this like /dd, no, /0, no, dd should always be the name. H1, we'll just leave it at that. Oops. There, so that updates that. Output devices like printer and terminals, we can update that similarly.
Don't you need the slash in front of the H1?
Oh, I didn't notice I didn't put that in. Yeah, we should change that. Right, didn't notice I hadn't put that. Okay, thank you. All right, so those are the things you can change in G Shell tab. Okay, so in the display, now let me explain this. Display changes settings for the rest of Nitrous 9. Okay, so when you're not in G Shell, okay, like when you're in, you know, an applications program or a game is running, okay, or the main term screen here, the boot up screen, or any other text windows that you open. The parameters for these things are set through the display tab, okay? And for that matter, for the whole system in general. So like, for example, EOU 1.0 by default starts in CMP mode, composite mode. Now, I always run OS 9 in RGB, So that's like one of the first things I change. Okay. But you can switch back and forth, even monochrome. Okay. Anyway. So, but we want to keep it on RGB. So that's one thing when you're first starting up EOU for the first time, you want to go in there and change that. And also, you can change the color scheme of this window and any other text windows and any other games and other applications that you're running. The palette that those things use can be changed through this. And so that's where some of these other presets come in. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, that one works. And so there's a number of them. I couldn't think of names for any of these. So it's alternate set 1, alternate set 2, and so on. So that's what these are down here for, is mainly for the other applications and Windows and so on, not G Shell. Let's see. So that is pretty much this. Again, you can change the colors and so on like that. All right. So then the mouse tab, you guessed it, controls the mouse. Okay, and its various settings. So whichever mouse port or joystick port on your computer you have the mouse plugged into, you can select left or right. If you have a high-res joystick adapter, you can select that. Okay. Second button equals clear. So you guys all know about that. Basically, you can have your right button on your mouse act as the clear key for switching between windows. Okay. And so you can turn that on or off. I don't like using it because there are some games and programs that use the second mouse for other things. And so to have to keep changing or turning that feature on and off in order to run a certain game is too much for me to remember. So I just never use the second button to switch between windows. I always have this off. But you can keep it on if you like, if you prefer. Okay, sample rate, mouse timeout. These are really technical things which I don't really mess with. I leave those settings alone at the defaults. Now let's see. Curtis, can you explain what those are for?
Well, sample rate is how often it actually scans the hardware for the mouse. And especially if you're running a high-res interface, it takes a fair bit of CPU time. So if you're scanning at 60 updates per second, it's actually to slow the whole system down somewhat. In the background, you can drop it down to like 20. The mouse still reacts fairly well, but it doesn't make a lot of CPU time.
Yeah. So I've got 3 and 1 for those 2 settings. Does that sound pretty good, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's number. I think sample rate's number of clock ticks, or it just depends on you.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's the other one.
And what's mouse timeout? What does that do?
I think it's the mouse button timeout, like how long it takes to register a double click, like if you click too fast, or
Oh,
if you're somebody that clicks slower, you might slow that down so you have more time so it doesn't miss it.
okay. So double that. Okay. So
If you slow it, might take it as 2 single clicks versus the double click. So that's for different.
okay. So that's for the double click of the mouse. Nice. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, like I said, I never mess with these. That's a more technical thing that probably beginning users and casual users of Nitrous 9 probably don't need to mess with them either. So, but I have them here in case you ever want to. So yeah, so that's the mouse settings tab. Keyboard, not much for this one. Key click on off. So in EOU, you have the ability, at least I think the default is on, right?
Only on term. It's
right,
unique
only
each
on
window.
term. It's unique for each one. Okay, thank you. So this affects term, the key click, whether it makes a sound when you click the keys. You can turn that on and off.
Actually, I was going to ask anybody who's tried Nitrous 9 EOU, like we have it turned on because when it was a new feature, we wanted to have it enabled at least one window for people to try it.
Yeah.
Is that getting annoying for anybody? Should I just turn that back off and just let you set it on your phone?
It's I don't do much in term, so I'm on another window, so I don't mind that it's clicking in term.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Well, I personally find it annoying, but whatever. most people
I use
want.
it. I have like if you're busy loading fonts and stuff.
Yeah.
It's fairly intensive. Like I could hear it. I hit the keyboard.
Yeah, it's not a big deal for me to turn it off when, as one of the first things I do when I
Yeah, this is one of my
customize. Yeah. When
I
I,
put on sometimes because there isn't a whole lot of sound that comes out of stuff from the Coco.
It's like a adventure game too. Like just audio feedback.
oh, yeah. All right, so then keyboard repeat delay and keyboard repeat speed. I usually leave these settings alone too, but sometimes I'll mess with them. Like, so keyboard repeat delay controls how long it takes for the character to repeat when you hold down a button on the keyboard. So if you increase that number, then it takes longer for the C's to start shooting off like that. And then keyboard repeat speed affects how fast it prints additional characters. Okay. So sometimes I have to mess around with those a little bit. But usually I just try to leave those alone at the default setting. But you can change the number, just by clicking on the number. And so that's keyboard settings tab. Windows tab. So this affects specifically settings for text windows. Whenever you open up a new text window, like when you go in here and you type in shell, okay, creates a new window for you, right? So this affects those settings. So you notice I have it set to 80 columns, so whenever text windows are created, it creates an 80 column. And also you can switch it to 40 column if you want. Okay, so X window size, Y window size. The difference between this and that is this is choosing an 80 column screen, whereas this is choosing the size of the window within that screen. Am I right about that? I think, yeah. Okay.
So you could have the 80 column go beyond the Windows size and would like be, showing part of the 80 column.
Yeah. So for example, if you wanted to create a text window on an 80 column screen, but you only want it to take up the first half of the screen, so you change X window size to 40, and you can make this change too. You can make that less, so it only takes up a corner of the screen or whatever. Okay, but I never mess with these. Usually I just keep them at 80 and 25.
Isn't that columns and rows?
Yes, columns and rows. Yep, that's right.
So it's like making a banner or?
Well, you could make a banner by keeping this at 80 and putting Y at 4 or 5 or something. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and so then these, of course, these are pretty self-explanatory. This determines the foreground, background, and border colors of those windows. Okay, and these are all values from 0 to 7.
I have a question.
Sure.
So say you have a gimme X in your machine, and you got extra colors and stuff. Am I SOL when it comes to having more colors?
Yeah, I mean, when I get in yet, I don't have one myself. Who knows when that will ever be? But
Potentially, though.
potentially, sure. I mean, yeah. Once I get
We have to add some operating systems. The way colors are done at the beginning.
Good point.
Slider response is different.
Yeah.
So the stamping that whole.
Good point. Curtis will have to probably lay some
Well, that's
groundwork.
been fine, but unfortunately, until Gimme X becomes something that can actually be manufactured again, I'm not devoting a lot of time to it because I don't get anything.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. So yeah. Anyway, that controls the appearance of text windows. And so then the printer tab. Now, if you have a real CoCo and if you have it hooked up to a real printer, then these become useful. Okay. I myself don't. I have a real CoCo, but to print things, I use DriveWire. So I just send it to DriveWire, it goes into a folder, and you can print it out from there. Which leads us to this. If you do have like a DriveWire setup, you can change the printer name to DriveWire. Okay. And then the port would be /DriveWire, I think. Or
I don't,
Slash
I don't
printer.
remember, so that was.
You know what, I
think it's still B.
is it still P? Okay, so you just leave that alone. So as long as you have the right driver, thank you, in memory, then you can do that. Okay, and then it'll print to DriveWire. But if you have a real printer, then you just type in the name of the printer and the
And don't some of the emulators have the ability to capture what would have been to the fingerprint report, and you can actually create a text file and stuff?
yeah. So set these to, whatever your system supports. All right. So the page width, the page length.
So
rare
you
to
say
use
that that's just left there for, legacy?
Legacy, mostly yes. Yeah.
I call them diehards.
Yeah. For legacy systems, we have this in here.
The legacy of
There is some software that does use this, like when I get window writer fixed up running 99, it actually.
Okay, wait.
Setting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Home Publisher has its own setting. Yeah, there's a few
Yeah.
programs that actually do.
Is there a DMP 110?
only for the masochist.
Only the, yes. I actually still have a DMP 110, but I haven't used it in 30 years.
Ribbon's probably driving.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing is not only is it so hard to get ribbons, but also the ribbons. I went through ribbons really frequently because they would jam and rip and dry out and stuff. So I will never use that printer again, even though I've had it all these years.
The auction.
Right, I should have. Well, then it would have taken up a lot of room. It's really heavy. It's a beast.
If you use carbon paper, it makes a beautiful print.
Well,
It's more copies.
Beautiful is a relative term.
Beautiful starting nothing. Nothing makes it a bad, it's a print.
So that's why I use DriveWire. I just print a DriveWire. It comes out a nice, beautiful inkjet printer.
It kind of simulates one into a PDF.
Yeah, it could, I guess.
I
But
mean, how far can you go with legacy?
as far as I'm concerned, I am just grateful that I don't have to use a dot matrix printer anymore. I hated them back in the 80s, and I still hate them. And it's like we have much better stuff now. I'm happy just sending it to DriveWire, print it out on a modern printer, and I'm fine with that. I'm not one of those extreme purists that have to have.
Yeah, you're not hooking up multiple printers and trying to play Star Wars by the timing of it.
Sure. So yeah. But I have all this for legacy systems that would like to have it.
And there's some like I said, there's some legacy programs that actually use this.
That's true. It's true. Exactly. Okay, so system. This is for some arcane, not arcane, but technical settings that are supported in the environment file that you can change through this window here. But personally, I hardly ever change anything on this tab. But you can change the default data and execution directories that G Shell runs in. Task priority. When do I ever change it from 128? Never.
I don't do it like this. Just sets it up for all things that you show.
Yeah, this is like system wide, right?
Which I know you normally wouldn't change that. I do occasionally change it for a specific program if I have something that's taking too much CPU time and I'm trying to do something else. I may drive it down because I don't care how long it takes because I'm doing something else.
Right. Yeah, and so some of these settings are things I never change, but I put them in here in case somebody else wants to, and also in the spirit of control panel being something that is hopefully going to replace any need to go into the environment file and through a text editor and change the settings through there. You can change it through here instead. So the idea, if I'm going to have control, accommodate all of the settings in the environment file, then this has to be in here. So that's why I have all these in here. So
I ask a question.
Yeah,
When you
sure.
change that priority, is that's the default for every process that's launched after you've made the change? Like, it's
Um,
not gonna
G
show.
shell.
Right.
Oh, the regular shells actually touch that.
okay, thank you. Module CRC checking, I'm not even sure what that means.
That is inverted.
Yeah, that is useful sometimes. That's, because always done by default when you bought it from Tandy, you would always do a series of checking inside the loader run it program.
Right.
And if any bytes were corrupted, it would tell you immediately, like, stop. But it's slow because it has to compute the series every time you launch everything.
So is this an on-off thing?
Yeah.
It's either one or zero?
If you turn it off, which is by the default, then programs launch instantly as soon as they're loaded to run. They don't check anything. But if you're starting to have weird system crashes running certain programs, you may want to turn that on or just ident the module to see if something got corrupted.
So
If
currently,
you want a
this is-
safe system, turn it on. If you want a system that's faster, turn it off.
well, I guess I'll turn it off.
It was already off.
Yeah, one is
One is off,
zero is on because that was what
zero is on? That's usually the opposite.
That's why I said it was inverted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we did
I won't take
that. Did that years ago and left.
Okay, okay,
You want to call it bypass CRC
Yeah.
checking.
okay. Oh, yeah, maybe I should rename that then, okay, for the next update. Cisco text response, I know what Cisco is, but I'm not sure what text response is, but,
Bottom one checks to see if you got a 2-door or 4-door rim.
yeah.
Or minibus.
So, yeah, Curtis told me previously that this is for testing purposes only, so I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
So you actually have to specify how much memory you had in your machine. You have to
Right.
remember you can-
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Well, we changed this with auto senses.
Mhm.
And if you want, if say you have a 2 meg machine, but you want to make sure something works in a 512 machine, you can actually force that to say it's 512, and G Shell will treat everything as if it's 512, even if you're running a 2 meg or 128K if you want.
Is there
So it's just for testing to override the actual.
Yeah,
I think the only thing it was useful, it's actually used for, is if it was 128,
Yeah.
G Shell would act in a memory restrictive mode.
right.
So that it
Or a
didn't-
process launched from
yeah, it would
G
change
shell
how
than
it locked
yeah,
on
a regular window.
It did things like it forced, you couldn't even the graphics speed more than 16K, so you had to pick like 320 by 4.
However, EOU requires 512K, right? So it's not useful anymore to even have that.
I mean, if you want to write something and make a self-booting disk for 128K code, you shall use it.
True, yep.
Like EOU, the drivers and stuff run fine in 120K. You don't need the 512, but to get the whole GUI environment without a bunch of weird twisty things like this, we just kind of sit screwed and make it fine.
Right, yeah. Which is fine. All right, so then boot up, finally. So these are settings that change, the system booting up, obviously. So console shell program is shell. I never mess with that. Console shell parameters. This is useful.
Yeah, that's the
sometimes.
immortal shell setting.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, if you hit control break, it'll close the shell on you. It's kind of like main hitting escape when you have part emulation turned on.
I lost my shell. I lost term. Oh my gosh. So you can't do anything, really. Okay, startup file. This is useful too, because if you have a startup file, you can name it whatever you want, really, through this.
Yeah, you also send parameters for the shell to use.
Yep, you can add parameters to it, yep. AutoX, same sort of deal. If you have an AutoX program, you can name it here and then put the parameters down here. Modules to fast load. That's something also that's useful because there's like util pack 1, util pack 2. You can even add more, okay? And so,
Isn't that misleading?
I don't know.
I mean, it's.
It's
Going, right?
You know, just look at like the standard way that we used to do it is you put in your startup file like load this, load that. But that forks the shell, it forks load, and then loads that part, and then comes back and closes the shell. And then the next load does the same thing. This actually just will do F-string load every single time. There's no extra shells being generated. So it saves memory and it saves. It is that.
Nice. Yeah, so you can add additional modules. I last time I tried this, it didn't work. So that's still a bug I have to. Oh, there we go. It does work. So you can type in the names of these modules. Util pack 1, util pack 2. Is there a util pack 3? I forget.
Not at this time.
Okay.
But then you can make
You could make your own. That's true. Yeah, it's not.
If you're a basic 9 programmer, you might preload basic 9 items.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not hard at all. Yeah, you can name it whatever you want too.
If you play Recipe and Practice a lot, you can load that too.
So you notice I typed in 2 module names and then now they appear down here. Okay. And then if you made a mistake, okay, you can come in here. You can either append additional module names or replace the list that you just created.
So I mean, everybody puts a comma in between.
It does, yes. Now, if you want to delete the modules in memory that you just named, say I want to undo what I just did. You hit replace and then boom, just hit enter. I think that made a character down here. I think we need to fix that. Okay. So yeah, that's all the settings. Now you can also jump around from tab to tab through the settings menu up here. Okay. So if you select G-Shell, see, it goes right to that. So that's a second way that you can navigate the tabs is through that. Now, why do you need 2 ways to do it? I don't know. I wanted to put something up here in the menu bar, so I just put settings up there.
Windows does it.
That's right. That's right. Info. Okay, so info. I don't think I loaded it into the. Okay. But help works. Okay. So
Which is important.
this gives you a little help file. And what's nice about this is that, by the way, the reason it didn't stay up is because, let me just slow down. I have this, this running at 18 megahertz.
Oh, my cheating.
Yeah, I forgot to turn that off. I was going to do that. All right, so here we are. We're back. So now it shouldn't do. Yeah. Yeah, see, now it didn't scroll up. Okay, so this this kind of explains what each of these settings is for and so on. And the cool thing about this is that it will automatically pull up a help screen for the particular tab that you happen to be on. Okay, so what you just saw was the help screen for system. If I jump over to mouse and then go into help, oops, yeah, well, no, hold on. It brings up the help screen for mouse. Okay, I think I accidentally clicked, that's why I'm back to scroll. But anyway, so yeah, and G shell, go into info, help, oops. My finger shakes. Accidentally click when I don't mean to. And so it brings up the help tab. The help screen for that tab. So that's kind of nice. That way you bring up a help screen for whichever screen you happen to be on, or tab you happen to be on. So the file menu here, you can reload the environment file settings from disk through this setting here. You can save the current settings through this one. Abandon, basically like
Quit without saving?
quit without saving, I think is what that does. Well, you can also do that through here. Save before exit. You can save or you can not save.
So all the tweaks he made on all those different screens is not saved to the environment file yet.
Well, it is now. I
It
just
is now.
Oh, okay. Wasn't looking.
So let's see.
So the changes are active as you would assign them to your current system, but it doesn't save for a reset.
Some of them, it changes once you exit the program. Others, you have to reboot in order for the changes to take effect. So it's taking an awful long time to say. There we go. Okay.
You have to reboot it so that the environment file gets reloaded.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so why don't we do that? We're going to reboot.
Under the file menu.
There was exit, there was abandon.
No,
I covered them all. Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to reboot anyway. Okay. So let's reboot.
There's a reboot again too.
Yeah, yeah, why don't we do that? We'll do the reboot. Right. Now. So now it changed it to RGB. I don't know if you noticed, but before when I booted up, it had different colors for the turn screen here because it was in CMP mode initially. Now it's in RGB mode. So, so it's loading all the graphics pointers.
So that's why you're here. Booted up to a little faster.
Yeah. So then, so now we've got a green screen. That's what we set it to when I was in there. That's not what it was originally. So that, and then you notice also the devices over on the left side. Now all I have is /DD and /H1, which is what and that was another change I made when I was in there. So, so yeah, so now all of those have taken effect.
So where were you in files or?
Oh, hold on, I gotta change this. For some reason, whenever I reboot, I have to reset this. I'm not sure why. Oh, the setting I forgot to change. Anyway, so now to start control, you just go into the Tandy menu and hit control.
The last one was boot up. Did you do that one?
Boot up. Yeah, we did that one. Okay. Yeah, we talked about this one. So anyway, that's all the features. So if you're just starting out with EOU and you just want to take care of the most basic settings, then the ones I would suggest are changing 40 column to 80 column if you have the appropriate monitor. Changing the presets, get away from that dull drab gray default. And then storage devices, you might want to update the storage devices to reflect what you actually have on your system.
Like floppy drives.
Floppy drive, yeah. If you have like a drive wire, for example, if you want to add drive wire, okay.
Or what if we say, let's say you have a blank hard drive?
Then you can just /H2 or whatever for the drive name is, okay.
But where does that blank drive reside so you can pick it up?
Well, it depends. Like in my emulator, I go into here and mount it here.
Okay.
Okay.
It'll see.
Yeah.
And then you can mount it with the SDC or SDC2 commands, command prompts from there.
Yeah. So
Like you can remount like your chain images. You can swap
Right.
what image H1's looking at.
yeah, how you do that depends on your system. So anyway, like if you wanted to add drive wire, for example, you just come in here, add comment X0. Okay. Common settings. 4080 column is probably something you're going to want to update. Storage devices, you're probably going to want to update. Output devices, maybe. If you're using drive wire, you might want to, depending on what your drivers are. And that's it for that one. Another basic setting would be RGB composite. You need to switch that to match your system.
I just want to mention one thing on the display settings here. Like you'll notice all the palettes are kind of repeating in blocks 4 because we're in a 4-color mode. If you actually want to change the 16 colors and see them all at once to see what your colors clearly are, you'll have to switch to 40 column because COVID doesn't have, at least not without a guinea act. Yeah. Doesn't have a 16 color 40 or 80 column mode. So that's the only way. So you have to switch to 40 temporarily.
Thank you. That's right. Yeah. So the preset that's loaded in here has a full set of 16 different colors, but since we're in 80 column mode, it can only display 4 of them. So I think I programmed it to default to just repeat those 4. Anyway, so mouse, you're going to want to change mouse port left to right depending on which port you're using. High res, low res, whether you have a high res or low res adapter, you want to change that.
What are you currently using? High res?
Yes.
And that's just your driver and the emulator?
Yeah, it's through the emulator. So that's the thing is the emulator keeps changing things on me. So I have to keep swapping back and forth. It's annoying. But anyway, second button equals clear. You may or may not want to change that. Leave these alone. Keyboard, you might want to change key click off, okay, because by default it's on, okay. Windows, if you, like, by default, I think EOU starts up in a 40 column window, right?
On term.
On term, right. So, so if you want 40 column windows, or, you know, if you want 80 column windows versus 40 column windows, then you can change that too. You can change the foreground, background colors, but that's optional. Okay, you don't have to.
I think these are windows created by G Shell as well, right?
Yeah, it's not totally system wide, is it?
Okay, just the ones created by G Shell.
That's right.
Yeah, because the environment, some of the environment, I don't think it's pro system, it's required G shell first.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but.
Okay, and then
Does this all have to do with multi-view? Get theme out?
Yeah, G shell is.
G shell basically is multi-view, yeah. So then, printer, you know, unless you want to add drive wire, you're probably going to change it. Or, you know, change it. Yeah. System and boot up, probably you're not going to change anything. If you're just starting out, if you're a relatively new user, you could probably ignore these bottom two. Yeah, so that's basically it as far as, yeah.
Before you had this custom control panel,
Mhm.
could you still, roll, set up your hard drives, what we had to do? What we wasn't done before?
I don't think you could change
Pretty
the,
close to the devices.
Yeah.
change
Yeah,
the
you can
device.
change it, there was a, G shell itself had a devices thing.
Okay. That's right, it was through G Shell you would do that, because you would go in,
But that had some pretty bad design things.
yeah. So
Like
if
if
you
they're
go
looking
into
fully
disk,
painted.
you'd go into like, was it the disk menu or something? Set devices. Yeah, there we go. You can set them through G Shell too. Okay. But since it is something that the environment file has a setting in,
Yeah.
I wanted to put that in control panel too.
We used to have like, if you want to set serial stuff, you have to go to the serial thing for the control panel. And you
Yeah.
want to set your printer, that's a separate program you run, and
Right.
you know, all these different things. You kind of amalgamated everything into one big control program.
Yeah.
Remember where the heck certain thing.
That's right. So like all settings are now through the control panel, because you'll notice, not here, it's over here. There's a printer, there's port. What I did was I took the functionality of printer and port and combined that with control. Okay, so you don't even need these anymore, really.
Well, once you're totally done and comfortable that you've taken control where you want it, I'm going to remove it.
Yeah, I keep them in there for now. This is still a work in progress, actually. So, but yeah, that's so I'm hoping that this will make changing the settings on your system more convenient. I'm particularly proud of the presets for changing the palette. You can change them on the fly to different color schemes very quickly, very easily.
But
And-
I got a question.
Sure.
So let's say I hit, the control, the little X thing or whatever.
Right.
Is that the Tandy logo thing?
Yeah.
Okay, and then say you go down to, control, when you hit it, why doesn't it say like Fred made it?
Oh,
What's the info?
it's under info. I think the about program is not loaded into this command and CMS directory, and that's not why. That's why it's not. Well, that too. I really don't. I have many flaws, and egotism is not one of them.
This is inspired by Rondell Bow.
I'll put that in there.
You have this thing about box on.
Program to do it. I don't know what, and I somehow got it written. I don't know. I'll have to fix that later. But anyway, that's the control panel. And hopefully this makes it easier for people to change settings, system settings on the fly, and make things easier to use in the spirit of EOU.
EOU's link.
Yeah.
So how many hours do you think you have in the?
You know, I spend hours on just squashing one bug sometimes. You know, so it's been like the past 3 years. I don't know. A lot. Yes. Yes.
That came in like, did you write it in assembly or C?
This is in C. Yeah. I'm not a very talented assembly programmer, so
Which compiler do you compile?
Deeks that he's been working on lately. Yeah. So yeah, I gave him a lot of praise at the beginning. He's done a lot of
You
good.
gotta watch that.
Yeah, I should put that. Yeah, I'll add you in the about page. So, yeah, but I feel like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants because a lot of people over the years have worked on Nitrous 9, and I'm really appreciative of all the work you've done. Yeah,
Yeah, boy, it was huge.
that's right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, crazy. Absolutely. So
We wanted to test like this latest work using CoCoFEST. Did they just do an update on the CoCoFEST or do they have to download another image?
well, you would download an image. I'm gonna post a new updated image at the end of the day today, hopefully, and that will be this minus a couple bugs that I haven't squashed yet. So
But you're talking about updating the CoCoFEST automatically, and then usually I think the CoCoFEST updates the entire EOU hard drive image in one shot. You see that kind of side load until the next version of EOU comes out.
yeah. So the version that I post at the end of the day today will be, I guess, in the next.
Yeah, there's a few bugs. There's
EOU.
gonna be a bug.
Yeah.
Decent and just had a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And
Is this software on GitHub?
It's not on GitHub. It's the source code is contained in the source folder under the image that I'm going to be posting.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're gonna make this one.
Yes, absolutely. Do you have a question?
I've got a question. You want, Curtis, in here, where for like storage devices, I'll put as a suggestion, do a checks if you put something without a slash on it, it automatically input it in. And also, does
Okay.
it check to see if the module is in memory or in the, at all?
Currently, it does not.
Okay.
I don't think the original control panel did either.
No, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And because that way you're not putting something in or misspelling something,
Yeah, just-
and so that it knows, at least there's a check what has in memory.
Module memory that doesn't exist. like return-
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'd make it a little bit more foolproof, I guess, to have a check to see, hey, is that module actually in memory? Good idea. Yep.
And, is the version number changed then? 1
The version of this
No, the version of,
EOU. No, EOU won't change. No.
how do we know?
Well, the next time when his new version's ready and gets installed, the next release will be a different version of 101.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
so we just wait till that.
But he has his own separate numbering scheme because he's doing ones in between. So
Yeah.
Jeff doesn't even keep that.
Right.
So for us poor people.
So the version I'm posting will just be control. So you would have to swap out the executables. 3.1. Yeah. You'll have to swap out the executables, copy them onto your image or disk containing EOU 1.0. So you're running the most recent version of control.
And same thing with Jeff's DCC because he's doing updates constantly. So I mean, if you get his, is it your GitHub or what do you use your own? Yeah, you can pick up stuff that's like months ahead of what's happening.
And if by the way, if you do manage to take a look at the source code, be kind, be patient, be understanding. Learning C, I'm still in the process of learning C, and I'm still improving and trying to improve my techniques and so on. So
Are there swear words?
no, it's just I'm sure if you're an experienced programmer, you look at the code and think, oh, this could have been done much easier this way. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that. So
I've done that.
yes, you have. You've given me some feedback already. So, yes, thank you. I hope you're patient with me as I go through this, continue down this journey with this. So
We appreciate your time.
all right. That concludes our section. That concludes our presentation.
But I think the default leaving it on is good because anybody who gets annoyed enough who want to turn it off, if they don't already know, they're going to learn something in the process. Yeah. If I only turn it on to one window, the other one, right.